That violent market dump we just saw, that wasn't a crash. It wasn't a signal to get out. That was the final shakeout before the real move begins. That was the starting gun for the altcoin season you've been desperately waiting for. Most people saw that red candle and they panicked. They saw the headlines about geopolitical tensions and assumed the bull market was over. They were wrong. What they failed to see were the signs of a classic, brutal shakeout designed to do one thing and one thing only: steal your positions at a discount before the market absolutely melts faces. In this video, I'm going to pull back the curtain. I'll show you the on-chain data that suggests the smart money is now rotating out of a tired Bitcoin and into explosive altcoins. I'm going to connect the dots between the market makers, the exchanges, and the news cycle to show you exactly how the game is played. And most importantly, I'm going to give you the framework to understand where this river of capital is heading next, so you can position yourself for the life-changing gains that are coming. This wasn't a bug, it was a feature. And if you understand it, you're about to be on the right side of the biggest wealth transfer this cycle has seen yet. Let's be brutally honest about what happened. This wasn't a gentle correction, it was a demolition job. And the primary target was not Bitcoin, it was the altcoin market. While Bitcoin saw a pullback of around 12%, it was a flesh wound compared to the carnage in altcoins. We saw major, fundamentally sound projects get their prices slashed by 50%, 60%, and in some extreme cases, over 80% in a matter of hours. This is not organic selling. This is what a targeted liquidation cascade looks like. Think about the timing. The entire event was shrouded in the fog of war, geopolitical headlines about new tariffs, and international conflict creating the perfect cover story. Whenever there is chaos in the world, savvy players can use it as a smokescreen. They know that fear is the most powerful tool to trigger panic selling. So while the world was distracted by the news, they went to work. The first part of the attack was the futures market. Altcoins with large, liquid, perpetual futures markets were hit the hardest. These markets allow for immense leverage, and the attackers knew it. They initiated a cascade of liquidations, where one person's forced selling triggers a lower price, which in turn forces the next person to liquidate. It's a domino effect, a death spiral designed to vaporize leveraged long positions. Over 19 billion in liquidations were reported in less than a day, wiping out millions of traders who thought they were safely positioned for the next leg up. But here's where it gets truly sinister. Just as prices were hitting rock bottom, what happened? The exchanges locked up. People reported being unable to log in, unable to place buy orders, unable to execute trades. Coincidence? Maybe. But these technical difficulties at the exact moment of maximum opportunity are a classic feature of volatile markets. By preventing buyers from stepping in, they ensure the price smashes through all support levels, allowing those with direct market access, the ones who never get locked out, to scoop up assets for pennies on the dollar. We saw massive price discrepancies between exchanges, a clear sign of fractured, isolated liquidity. This wasn't a natural crash, it was a robbery, a shakeout designed to flush out every weak hand, every over-leveraged trader, and every retail investor who didn't have the conviction to hold. They wanted your coins, and they used global panic and exchange infrastructure as their weapons to get them. They created a problem, a terrifying market dump, and then they agitated that problem with lockouts and fear-mongering headlines. And now they are preparing for the solution, the markup phase that will leave everyone who sold in the dust. So, how can we be so sure this was a planned event and not just a random market panic? The proof is in the recovery. A genuine market collapse, the start of a true bear market, does not recover in 48 hours. It bleeds out slowly, with months of grinding despair. What we witnessed was a violent V-shaped recovery in the altcoin market, where prices snapped back with impossible speed. That speed is your number one signal that the dump was inorganic. This price action fits perfectly into a century-old model for analyzing markets known as the Wyckoff method. Richard Wyckoff was a legendary trader who deconstructed how smart money manipulates markets. He laid out a schematic for accumulation, a roadmap that shows how large players build their positions before a massive price increase. And we just witnessed the most critical and violent phase of that schematic. The Wyckoff accumulation model has several key phases. It starts with a selling climax, where a steep drop in price creates widespread panic. Following this, the market enters a trading range. But the most important event is what Wyckoff called the spring, or the shakeout. This is a final brutal plunge below the established support of the trading range. Its purpose is to induce maximum fear, to trigger stop losses, and to convince everyone that the price is heading to zero. It's the last chance for the big players to accumulate shares from weak hands at the cheapest possible price. Does that sound familiar? That crash was a textbook Wyckoff spring in action. It was the final, brutal stop loss hunt. It was the moment of maximum pain, designed to make you capitulate and sell your assets right at the bottom. The subsequent rapid recovery is what Wyckoff called the sign of strength. This suggests that the selling pressure has been exhausted and that the smart money is now back in control, ready to begin the markup phase, the sustained uptrend where the real profits are made. Analysts have been tracking this exact pattern on the charts for both Bitcoin and major altcoins, noting that the final stages of accumulation appear to be in play. No one shows you this on the mainstream news. They want you to believe it was about tariffs or global instability because that narrative keeps you scared and keeps you poor. But when you understand the mechanics of the market, when you see the Wyckoff pattern playing out right in front of your eyes, the fear disappears. It's replaced by conviction. The crash wasn't a reason to sell. It was arguably the clearest buy signal we've had all year. It was the final confirmation that the accumulation phase is likely over and the markup is about to begin. Now, let's zoom out. This shakeout didn't happen in a vacuum. It appears to be the catalyst for a much larger macro level shift in capital that has been brewing for months, the great rotation from Bitcoin into altcoins. Every crypto cycle tends to follow a predictable pattern of capital flow. It's like a cascading waterfall, and understanding its direction is the key to outsized returns. The cycle almost always begins with Bitcoin. Capital floods into BTC first, as it's seen as the safest and most established crypto asset. We saw this happen with the approval of Bitcoin ETFs, driving its price and dominance to new highs. Bitcoin dominance, the metric that measures BTC's market share against all other cryptos, has been trending high, signaling an environment where investors prefer the relative safety of Bitcoin. When Bitcoin dominance is high, altcoins tend to suffer. But that capital doesn't stay in Bitcoin forever. Once Bitcoin has had its major run and begins to consolidate, those billions of dollars start looking for a new home. Investors, having made profits in Bitcoin, begin to seek higher returns. They get more comfortable with risk. And that's when the waterfall begins to spill over into the next layer of the ecosystem, large cap altcoins. This is where we appear to be right now. Bitcoin has made its move. Its dominance is sitting at a high level, showing signs that it may be ready to roll over. The recent shakeout seems to be the final act to clear the deck before this rotation begins in earnest. Historical data shows that major altcoin seasons are often preceded by a period of high Bitcoin dominance, which then begins to fall as money pours into altcoins. The altcoin season index, which measures altcoin performance against Bitcoin, has been low, indicating it's been Bitcoin season. This is often seen as a contrarian indicator. The time to get into ALS is when this index is low, just before it flips. Furthermore, the macroeconomic environment could become a tailwind for this shift. While geopolitical events can cause short-term volatility, the broader trend is toward a more risk-on environment. Talk of potential interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve is back on the table. Lower interest rates can increase liquidity in the financial system and encourage investors to move into riskier assets like altcoins in search of higher yields. Institutions are already signaling their intent, with surveys showing plans to increase their allocations to digital assets beyond just BTC and ETH. This isn't just speculation. It's a confluence of cyclical market patterns and macroeconomic tailwinds. The money is ready to move. The shakeout provided the perfect entry. The rotation is not a question of if, but when, and all the signs suggest it's starting right now. So, if the great rotation has begun, the critical question is, where is the money going to flow first? Understanding the sequence is just as important as knowing the rotation is happening. The capital waterfall doesn't flood the entire market at once. It tends to move in predictable tiers. The first recipients of this wave of capital will likely be the large cap, blue chip altcoins. We're talking about the leaders of major sectors, foundational layer ones like Ethereum and Solana, and critical infrastructure plays like Chainlink, which have recently shown relative strength. Why these first? For several reasons. First, liquidity. Institutions and large capital allocators can't deploy billions of dollars into small, illiquid coins. They need markets that can absorb that kind of size. Large caps are the only assets that fit the bill. Second, perceived safety. While all altcoins are risky, large caps are seen as the safer bets within the altcoin ecosystem. They have proven track records and robust development. Third, and this is a key point, the projects that got hit the hardest during the shakeout are often the ones that bounce the most explosively. You need to be watching the BTC pairs of these major altcoins. An altcoin's USD value can go up simply because Bitcoin is going up. But when you see ETH, BTC, or SOL BTC start to break out of long-term downtrends, that is a strong signal that capital is rotating. It shows that these altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin itself, which is the very definition of an altcoin season. After the large caps have had their initial run, the capital will then begin to trickle down further. Profits taken from the large caps often flow into promising mid cap projects, and then finally into the highly speculative small cap and meme coin territory. That's when you'll see the truly parabolic market wide mania. But trying to front run that stage now is a mistake. The smart money is focused on the top tier. Follow their lead. The season starts with the generals, not the foot soldiers. Navigating this kind of volatility is not easy. These market shakeouts are psychologically brutal and designed to make you panic and sell at the worst possible time. Having a system, a strategy, and a community to lean on is absolutely critical. It's the difference between being a victim of this volatility and profiting from it. The professional traders and institutional players don't trade on emotion. They use systems. Many use automated tools like trading bots to manage their risk and execute trades in volatile markets. These bots can help you take profit systematically and prevent you from making emotional decisions during these chaotic periods. I've spent years teaching my private community how to use these exact tools and how to read the market cycles I've discussed in this video. If you want to stop guessing and start trading with a plan, if you want real-time alerts when I see these rotations beginning, then I invite you to join our private Telegram and Discord. The link is in the description below. Don't try to navigate this market alone. The game is tough for the individual. Join a community that's dedicated to leveling the playing field. All right, so you understand the market mechanics, you see the patterns in the charts, and you know the macro rotation is on the horizon. How do you translate that knowledge into an actionable strategy? First and most importantly is patience and positioning. The biggest mistake you can make right now is having FOMO and aping into random small cap coins, hoping for a 100x overnight. Altcoin season is a process, not a single event. It starts with the leaders. Your initial focus should be on building positions in those top tier, large cap altcoins we discussed. These will likely be the first movers and will offer a better risk reward in the early stages of the rotation. As their valuations swell, you can then begin to strategically rotate a portion of those profits down into riskier plays. Second, think in terms of narratives. The money won't flow evenly across all large caps. It will favor the strongest narratives of the cycle. This could be DeFi, real-world asset, RWA tokenization projects, AI, or new layer 1 contenders. Don't marry your bags. Diversify your large cap holdings across several of the most promising narratives. This way, you're not overexposed to a single project, and you have a stake in whichever sector captures the market's imagination the most. Third, you must have a plan for taking profits. Nobody ever went broke taking profits. The euphoria during an altcoin melt-up can be intoxicating. It will feel like the prices will go up forever. They won't. You need to have predetermined price targets or technical indicators that will signal when it's time to sell a portion of your holdings. This could be selling 25% at a 2x, another 25% at a 3x, and letting the rest ride. The plan itself is less important than the discipline to stick to it. The goal is not just to see life-changing gains on paper, it's to realize them. Remember, the hard part might be over. The violent shakeout has flushed the system of excess leverage and weak hands. The path of least resistance now appears to be to the upside. The conviction you need comes from understanding why that shakeout happened. It wasn't just a warning sign, it looked more like a final boarding call. Your job now is to hold your positions, be patient, and execute your strategy without emotion. Let's bring this all together. The market has sent two very different signals over the last few weeks. To the uninformed, the retail herd, the signal was a terrifying crash fueled by scary global news. It was a signal of fear, uncertainty, and a reason to run for the exits. But to you, to the informed investor who understands the game, the signal was entirely different. That violent dump, followed by an impossibly fast recovery, was not a reason to sell. It was the starting gun. It looked like the final brutal shakeout in a classic Wyckoff accumulation pattern, clearing the path for a massive move higher. It was the signal that the great capital rotation, the flow of money from a consolidating Bitcoin into a deeply undervalued altcoin market, is beginning now. The US versus them narrative isn't just a story. It's the reality of these markets. Big players will always use their advantages to influence sentiment and price. Your only advantage is knowledge. It's understanding their playbook so you can play the game alongside them, not against them. The season you've been waiting for is not coming soon. It has already begun. The next 3 to 6 months have the potential to completely redefine your financial future, but only if you have the conviction to act on what you now know. Don't be the person watching from the sidelines, waiting for confirmation from the mainstream media. By then, it will be too late. The opportunity is now. If this breakdown provided you with value, if it cut through the noise and gave you clarity, then do me one simple favor. Smash that like button and hit subscribe. Turn on notifications because I will be tracking this rotation every step of the way, and I drop videos like this the moment I see a critical market shift you need to be aware of. More importantly, join the community. The link to our free Discord and Telegram is down below. Let's navigate this altcoin season together.